Hi everybody, I'm Alister Benn and you're watching Expressive Photography. In this week's video I want to give you a little update about the Iceland trip that I've just been running for the first 10 days of September. And before I went, I was talking about the funk that I'd been in, how I'd been feeling, my mental health had been struggling over the summer with the effects of recovering from COVID and some various other things that have been going on, but also some of the gear that I was going to take with me on the trip, specifically the new Kase filters that I have been reviewing. Now, of course, before all of you turn off and decide that you don't want to watch this because I'm going to be talking about gear, one of the things that we do use filters for is managing time. It is the most significant reason why we use filters. That and polarization. Now, some of the filters I was taking with me this trip were the combined ND filters and circular polarizer that Kase have just released a few months ago. This is a circular polarizer and a 3-stop ND filter combined. And this is a 6-stop ND filter combined with a circular polarizer. As you can see, they're color coded, which was the idea of my good buddy Adam Gibbs. And if you look in my filter case here, I always know that silver is my circular polarizer, the blue is my 3-stop with a CPL, the gold is a 6-stop with my CPL, and this is a standalone 10-stop ND filter. Since the new combined or sandwich filters, as I call them, have been released, I've actually taken my standalone 3 and 6-stop out of my case here because I'm finding I'm no longer using them. If I want to just use a circular polarizer, I use that. If I want to use a CPL in conjunction with an ND, I will use the sandwich filter. And just by rotating the filter on the lens, then we get either polarized or not polarized. I thought I'd share with you a few of the photographs that I've taken on the trip using these filters, but also highlighting the fact that for the these magnets are actually quite strong. People talk about the magnets not being strong. This thing, I need to get a nail in behind it to get it off. On the front of this is my 45 to 100, so this is my kind of medium zoom lens that I use on my Fuji GFX 100S. On this, I now have the new UV filter, and I've kept this on pretty much the entire trip. I put it onto this lens and it's got a magnetic ring that goes onto the front of it, and I can just clip on any of the filters I want to use straight onto that as I can, my lens cap. And one of the things that Kase talked about with this new UV filter was that when you face into the sun, sometimes with old UV filters, you get a reflection between the lens and the UV filter that shows up in your photographs. This has some special non-reflective coating on it, so it's just like having no filter at all. Why would you use something that has no effect? Well, it protects my nearly £2,500 lens from any scratches or dings that I might get moving it around in rocky, uneven terrain. So managing time, and let's just go to this first photo here. This was on the first morning of the workshop. Very grey, very overcast, very windy, wind showers coming through. 13 seconds at f18. This is the 6-stop ND filter with the CPL, and I've managed to slow this down to create this much more ethereal scene. The original scene was obviously very chaotic and very wild, and the waves are piling in, but because I have such strong angles running through this frame and the details in the rocks, I wanted to take some of the energy out of the ocean and make it more calming and more kind of, as I said, ethereal. So ND filters require, or managing time requires ND filters. There's a limit to how slow you can get your shutter speed just by using ISO and aperture. So this has allowed me to get really quite a slow shutter speed of 13 seconds. On this waterfall scene, managing time is a tricky one. If anyone says what's the correct shutter speed for photographing waterfalls and someone gives you an answer, do not listen to that person. There is no specific shutter speed that is perfect for shooting waterfalls. The reason being, the speed of the water flowing, the zoom or the magnification that you use is going to affect how fast the water's moving through the frame. So you'll see in this photograph here, I've shot it at 0.6 of a second, and on the next scene here, this is actually 0.5 of a second. So a small variability, but there's enough detail in there. You can see there's a lot more detail in this scene than there is in this scene, purely because the water is rushing away so powerfully going through this scene. Being able to polarize at the same time as using an ND filter, I find incredibly useful, in particular for getting rid of some of the reflections, but not all of the reflections. I actually like to keep a little bit of reflection in my highlights there, because if you roll off all of those highlights, you're actually flattening a lot of the contrast. It can get a little bit matte, in my opinion. But one thing for sure, I've been delighted with not just the behavior of the UV filter, but also the sandwich ND and polarizers combined. As always, there's no color cast. They actually repel water, so they're very easy to keep dry. So yes, I'm an ambassador for Kase filters, and I love Kase filters, which is why I'm an ambassador for Kase filters. It's a nice simple equation. I like them and I use them, and I've used them for years. The final photograph I'm going to use to illustrate the ND and the CPL combined is this one. And you'll see there's a little bit of a rainbow showing in the scene there. If you try and photograph rainbows without a circular polarizer, they can actually be quite hard to see. They're not always obvious. As soon as you rotate a polarizer though, they will absolutely come to life. So just rolling on that CPL is actually going to make the rainbows more visible in the frames, because you're creating contrast, you're creating polarizing contrast. Again, this is quite a fast shutter speed. It's an 1/8 of a second, because I was zoomed in, the water was rushing away. So obviously I wanted to try and keep some of that texture without it getting too mushy. And again, that's why we have variable strengths of ND filter, 3 stops, 6 stops, 10 stops, etc. So the final filter I want to talk about this time is this one here, and this is a black mist filter. And this one is slightly different from the others in that it's not a revolution filter, it's just a Kase circular filter. And it has its own holder, which is slightly different from the magnetic holder of the revolution system. One of the things I'm going to feed back to Kase is that I would like that to be exactly the same as a revolution filter, so that I only need one holder. If I want to use this filter, I'm having to take off and on other filters. However, for people who are looking for this specific effect, it is a good thing to use. What this does is, if you zoom in very, very close, you can see tiny little black specks all through the filter surface here. It almost looks like a billion sensor spots or tiny grains of black Icelandic sand. And what it does is it scatters the light. And this photograph here was taken using that, looking into the light, defocusing the lens, creating all of these wonderful bokeh circles and out of focus, wonderful colors here. I kind of like this thing. I think there's scenes that you can lose yourself in. You can look through the viewfinder and kind of turn yourself into a bit of a dream world. Really good way to switch off stress, really good way to just chill out and lose yourself in the scene. Not very literal, of course. I did go out and take this photograph just a couple of days ago when I got back to Scotland. This is very close to home. Autumn colours haven't kicked in yet. However, the black mist filter here has created this very ethereal and atmospheric glow. It works beautifully shooting into the sun, because what that's doing is it's giving the scene loads of backlight, which is being diffused and scattered by all of these tiny little black specks on the glass filter there. Without the filter, you'll see much stronger contrast, some backlight diffusion, but certainly if you compare the two images side by side, the black mist filter is certainly creating more in the way of atmosphere. All in all, the trip to Iceland was an incredible experience, as it always is. The weather was really, really wild. We had lots of wind and rain. We had no clear skies for auroras, so I wasn't able to use my night pollution filter. However, we braved it. We went in there with no expectations. And over the next few weeks, I want to share with you not just some of the photographs and the processing and the scenes that we witnessed and experienced, for hopefully you get something out of that. But also next week, I actually want to talk about ethics. I want to talk about some of the bad behavior we saw from other photographers and their groups, and generally why we should behave better. So please join me next week when I'll be covering that topic, plus looking at some of the scenes that we witnessed. And then over the month of October, we'll be digging into the archive of my photos from the Icelandic workshops and, of course, some of the processing. Thank you very much for watching this video. I appreciate it has been very case focused. However, we do use gear on a daily basis when we're out in the field, and I would endorse Kase until the cows come home, purely because I think they are some of the best filters out there. Click on the link below for an affiliate link, which will take you to the Kase website, and of course use the code Alister for a 5% discount if you are so inclined to purchase anything. But for now, that's it for me, and I look forward to speaking to you again next week, and I hope you're well wherever you are. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.